community like Martin
And
Luther
do you
King,
understand what the Black Panthers were?
nonviolent
Do you understand what the Black Panthers were? They were giving food to communities in Harlem, serving out children food and helping communities, teaching educational programs, community programs. They put in place
They were mobsters.
for the sake. No, that's not true. They were put in place to uplift the community in a different way, in a different route than MLK. And if you don't understand the history of this country, then obviously you, Cash Patel, and everyone else who wants to be simple-minded about this and act like her legacy can be brought down to a simple cop killer is just, you're trying to play dumb. Or you should read a history book and understand what time it was in the 70s and why everything that the cops say does not hold merit.
Hey, he's not playing dumb. You're being too nice to this guy. He's not playing dumb. I don't even think he has the IQ to even play dumb. He is dumb. He's dumb. Like, by definition, dumb. And that's the nice way to say it. Like I said, like first when I heard the news of Assata Shakur passing, I seen like a thumbnail, and once again I didn't believe it, so I just kept like scrolling. But then as of like 2 days ago, I watched a video, Mark Lamont Hill, talking about her legacy and everything, not she taught him, but throughout her books and her past and her decisions, her quotes, her poetry, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Like I really felt the video. That was it. Okay. But then I seen this video today and I was like, okay, now we got to talk about it, because now he decided to conflate. And when I say he, let me go ahead and just pull up his his picture here so you guys know who I'm talking about. This guy right here. And I'm going to try not to go to name calling, okay? Jesus is working on me. I could do better than that, okay? So I'm going to try not to call him names. But when he had the audacity to sit here and say, you guys did not like someone like Charlie Kirk, and you say that you're not for political violence, but then support someone like Assata Shakur and all these other people, the hypocrisy. That's what he said. And trust me, we're going to get into it. And this lady here, once again, I'm sorry if I don't know the names here, but she does a really good job at putting this dude in check. Beautiful, hands down, 10 out of 10, okay? But we understand, one thing we understand, that this country has a history of transforming our activists, the people that represent us, the people that decide to put everything on the line, like literally their life, their family, friends, livelihood, their opportunities. They put everything on the line, not even for a guarantee that it's going to change the future. They put everything on the line in hopes that they as an individual can change the future for everybody else. They have a way of transforming these people into criminals, into people that will be reflected in their eyes as the worst of the worst. And here's a quick story. I was doing construction. I was talking about Huey P. Newton and the Black Panther Party of self-defense to someone, and this older white guy, I had to be like in his early 50s. He was like, oh, the Black Panther Party, like, I was alive during that time and all this. He was like, yeah, weren't they like just killing people, just killing white people? I was like, no, what are you talking about? No. He's like, no, that's just what I was told. I'm like, well, you were lied to. I'm sorry, you're 50 something years old. You've been lied to this whole time. This country, our government has an ability to create a narrative in the worst way of people that will do the most good for the common person. And once again, these people right here, which let's go ahead and bring up our pictures here. These people, you cannot compare to a Charlie Kirk, not even on their worst day. You have to be an insane, hateful idiot to ever compare these individuals to a Charlie Kirk. Once again, you can't do that because these individuals right here, they fought for the people. They fought for people that were being oppressed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They put their lives on the line for their people. Charlie Kirk and people like him only fight against people. They would never put their lives on the line for the disenfranchised. They would never put their lives on the line for marginalized people. Never. So these people right here might be criminals to the misinformed, the uneducated, but these people right here, for people like myself, is something that I hope that I can measure up to one day. That is crazy because one, they challenge systematic racism directly. They didn't tweet about it. They didn't make cute videos. You see what I'm saying? They didn't just whisper it to their friends. They actually went out there and made change. They didn't ask for permission. They made the change. 2, they inspired mass movements for justice. Once again, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have social media. So they actually had to go out there and talk to people and motivate people and mobilize people and get people to get up and take action. And once again, violence wasn't their first option, but it was on the list. Because once again, like Assata Shakur said, whenever there is oppression, you're going to see resistance. Hands down, like 630. It's that simple. And they showed that. And then 3, but definitely not least, they exposed government oppression and injustice. And once again, they didn't just talk about it, they lived it. So let's go ahead and hear what this guy has to say.
DC. I feel like home now. It feels like home.
You're one of us.
I'm one of you guys. I'm trying to decide where to permanently live, but I'm liking a couple places. How was yours?
It was very good. I have lots of thoughts on where you can, should, and should not live. So
yes, I'm going to be using you as my map as I figure this out. So coming up on Rising, I'm going to talk about how Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene
President Trump has ordered
NFL.
Assata Shakur, a domestic terrorist and murderer who escaped from a U.S. prison in 1979 and lived in exile in Cuba ever since, has died at age 78. Shakur was a far-left communist radical associated with extremist groups like the Black Panthers and the Black Liberation Army in the 1960s and 1970s. This makes her a popular figure with many leftists, even though she is also a convicted cop killer. Indeed, she has been on the FBI's most wanted terrorist list since 2013. Of her numerous crimes, the most heinous, of course, was the murder of New Jersey State Trooper Werner Forster on May 2nd, 1973, during a traffic stop. She was convicted of the murder, but escaped from prison in 1979 with the help of left-wing groups, and she fled to Cuba, where the communist government welcomed her as a hero. But Cuban communists are not the only ones who revere Shakur as a hero, rather than a murderer. For decades, she's been a popular figure among leftist radicals. News headlines from mainstream and progressive outlets often recognize her as the godmother of Tupac Shakur, as if she were just another celebrity. The New York Times obituary describes her as a convicted revolutionary. That sounds pretty cool, like they went after her because she was too hip and edgy, too revolutionary. But no, she wasn't convicted of being a revolutionary. She was convicted of cold-blooded murder. She was also charged with numerous other crimes, by the way, including bank robbery, armed robbery, other murders. Those charges didn't stick for a variety of reasons. Cop killer did stick. She was convicted of it. I think that's not the sort of person we would want to hold up as a role model. Call me crazy. And yet leftists are...
Oh no, I will call you crazy. If it wasn't for YouTube and its guidelines that I got to adhere by, okay, I would call you a lot worse things, okay? Trust me, it's all flowing through my head and I wish I could, but I get in trouble. But trust me, whatever negative name that can ever be said to a human being, I am saying it. I'm thinking it right now. So trust me. Hey, everything but a child of God. I'm telling you, once again, you deserve it.
are using the occasion of her death to memorialize her as someone who spoke truth to power and fought for a more equitable world. Seriously, the remembrances are pouring in. The Democratic Socialists of America wrote on X, "Rest in power," and thanked Cuba, an authoritarian state that brutally jails dissenters, for their solidarity and loyalty, allowing Assata to live out her days in Havana. That's the kind of state the Democratic Socialists admire, one where cop killers are revered and actual forces for liberation are repressed. I'll just add a reminder here, by the way, that Zohran Mamdani, the would-be mayor of New York City, is a member of this group, the Democratic Socialists.
Yes, once again, round of applause for Mr. Mamdani. Once again, he is on the right side of these conversations. That is a badge of honor to be in the same sentence as Assata Shakur and Mamdani. Mamdani should take that as a badge of honor, because trust me, that is a high bar to ever meet. So once again, hey, he's only making Mamdani more popular. I'm just saying.
That Zohran Mamdani, the would-be mayor of New York City, is a member of this group, the Democratic Socialists. But look, I expect the DSA Twitter account to say stupid things like this. They're a bunch of Marxist radicals. Fine. I was a little taken aback to see the Chicago Teachers Union also celebrating the life of a convicted cop killer, Assata Shakur. The X account for CTU wrote the following: "Rest in power, rest in peace, Assata Shakur. Today we honor the life and legacy of a revolutionary fighter, a fierce writer, a revealed elder of black liberation, and a leader of freedom, whose spirit continues to live in our struggle. Assata refused to be silenced. She taught us that it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It's our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains." End quote. Well, those are some really nice sentiments to share about a murderer. The DSA is one thing, but this group, the Chicago Teachers Union, is responsible for educating your children. And they think it's important to recognize the honor, life, and legacy of a killer. By the way, lest you think the Chicago Teachers Union simply tries to find nice things to say whenever anybody famous dies, there was no statement from this organization on the death of Charlie Kirk. But I guess Kirk expressed ideas the teachers' unions disagreed with.
Yeah, definitely. Because Charlie Kirk said black folks were better under Jim Crow laws. Make that make sense. But once again, hey, let's listen to this guy. Hey, I called him a guy. I could have called him plenty of names, but Jesus is working on me, okay? We can do this. We can.
Which is a disqualifying offense, unlike, murder. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty interested in school choice right now. Other individuals who memorialize Assata Shakur's death include Democratic Representatives Ayanna Pressley and Summer Lee, of course. Here's the big picture. In the past several weeks, individuals with demonstrably left-wing motivations have committed appalling crimes on the basis of those beliefs. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, the shooting of the ICE detention facility in Dallas. In response, conservatives are expressing consternation that leftists do not decry violence more vocally, whereas many progressives are saying, well, of course we don't support violence. You're the ones who support violence. In this regard, Assata Shakur is a good test. No one who says, I oppose political violence, should be believed if they also tweet, "Rest in power, Assata Shakur." Shakur did not want to reform the system through nonviolent resistance. She wanted to kill people who stood in her way and also commit a bunch of random violence and robbery.
Okay, once again, let's just have a break where his voice is starting to give me this ring in my ear, and it's getting annoying. So we just need to just shut him up for just a second, okay? But he makes a good point. He makes a good point. You can't say that you never condone political violence, which I have, okay? You're right. There is a point where a government, a country, a large majority of people continue to oppress a group of people for little to no reason, based off their skin color, religion, sex, or creed, whatever, is going to be a resistance. And trust me, you guys had the Malcolm X. You guys had the Martin Luther Kings. What happened to them? What happened to Martin Luther King? You guys killed him. So at some point, a people instinctively are going to fight back. So I'm saying this today, and once again, if I ever say something differently, correct me. Political violence is at the bottom of my list. Once again, if you continue to try to oppress me and take away my rights and my freedom and treat me any way that you see fit, I'm going to try to talk to you. Then I'm going to try the whole politic thing. And if that doesn't work, trust me, it will be violence. That's simple. That's human nature. But this guy, once again, I'm not trying to name call here. We're grown-ups here, okay? This guy right here doesn't understand that. You know why? Because he does not have a spine. This is the kind of guy who will find comfort in being a slave, being oppressed. He will find comfort in that. But I don't. And my people before me sure the hell didn't. So once again, that's the difference between those who get taken advantage of and those who fight for their freedoms. That's simple.
Robberies in the process. Cuba harbored her because the authoritarian Cuban government approved of the violence and mayhem she caused in the U.S. Trust me, communist governments don't approve of violence and mayhem unless they are the ones doing it or unless it's aimed at the enemies of the state. The mainstream media wants us to believe that left-wing violence is not a serious problem. In fact, right-wing violence is worse or more prevalent, they say. Yet I don't see any Republican politicians, conservative interest groups, or MAGA media figures posting sympathetic tributes to Timothy McVeigh or to Dylan Roof. Assata Shakur, though, her poetry is apparently worthy of recitation, according to the teachers' unions and some Democratic figures. It's disgusting, frankly, and some more moderate Democrats do recognize that. Kudos to Democratic New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, who writes on X that the left's response to Assata Shakur's death is, quote, shameful and depraved. She was convicted of the murder of New Jersey State Trooper Werner Forster, who was executed in cold blood. There are so many worthy heroes to celebrate. She is not one of them.
Once again, I don't know who this Phil Murray is, but remind me to never mess with this dude here ever. Not even on accident. Once again, he says there is so many worthy heroes to celebrate. Well, you tell me, sir, who should we as Black Americans who are educated and aware of our history, you tell me who we should be celebrating. I'm curious. Once again, it definitely can't be Martin Luther King because, once again, you guys killed him. So he wasn't good enough, right? So once again, you tell me, and then let's have a conversation. But you see how weird that is? You know, okay, got
There are so many worthy heroes as they don't approve of political violence. But if they approve of Assata Shakur, worship her, in fact, then, well, I usually say make it make sense, but in this case, you just can't.
Well, then I approve political violence. Once again, political violence started this country. Political violence landed on those who already occupied this land. Political violence is everywhere. So you can't really run from it. Sometimes you just got to stand on business. And once again, political violence is now at the bottom of the list. And trust me, when you continue to try to oppress a people, you will mess around and find out. That simple. Okay. Does that make you happy now? I'm not afraid or ashamed to say that, because one, that is history, and two, that is just being human. So if you don't get it, then you don't get it.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah.
You guys are really wrapped up in this. So, you don't have to agree with everything that Assata Shakur did or like anything about her to understand that
The killing part.
No, anything that she did, anything that she stood for, to understand that there's a broader, complicated issue tied to her and police going after the Black liberation movement. So that has to be a fact. So you understand history.
They went after them because they're criminals.
The trial wasn't clear cut. So if you know about the trial in full, you know that she maintained her innocence, that she says that her arms were up, she didn't shoot the cop, and that doctors testified that her testimony is consistent with how the wounds hit her. So we have that piece of it. Also, doctors supported her account and there's not enough evidence. Even the New York Times said there's no actual thing tying her to the gunshot or the bullet, no fingerprints evidence. This is all based on hearsay. And New Jersey has a law specifically that if you are in the vicinity or around somebody who does kill a cop at that time, then it's called the accomplice liability, that you're going to jail. And so she's facing life sentence when her hands were reportedly up. Now, out of 10 indictments, because you mentioned that she's also been they've accused her of multiple things. 9 out of 10 of them never stuck. And so in the 1970s, this was prevalent that you try to take people who were of the Black liberation movement or the Black Panthers and tie things to them. Not making this up. Look at Huey P. Newton, who started the Black Panther Party, accused of things and then acquitted after that. She was acquitted, dismissed, or had hung juries in all 9, except for this one instance where they pulled her over for a tail light, saying that she was going after the cops after that, started shooting. She says they shot first, her hands were up, and so now here we have it, and she fled to Cuba. Now, I want to give you a history lesson, because if you know about the 1970s, we were barely a decade after the Civil Rights Act, meaning Black people barely had rights, right? That's what the Civil Rights was for. They had to fight for freedom from oppression and slavery, and the way people behaved still in that fashion, even though there was a free America. So in the 60s,
please understand the time frame that people were living in. It wasn't like today where people are like walking around, walking their dogs through the neighborhood and just sipping on mocha lattes and just having fun, playing Pokemon Go. Like, no, it was a different time for Black folks. It was no just, hey man, let's just go wherever we want and just opportunities just everywhere. No, it was a different time in a different place. I don't think this weirdo, this guy doesn't understand that. But this lady here, once again, I need to find her name. She does an amazing job putting this idiot in check.
MLK, and everybody was fighting for these things. And so Assata was around during that time, and they were protesting harassment, outright violence, and they didn't want to sit back and just say, oh, let's peacefully protest like MLK, even though MLK was being surveilled by the FBI as well.
Protest by robbing banks?
But she's not convicted of any of that stuff. So you're just naming things.
She was part of a criminal gang.
The FBI, let me talk for 9 minutes. Please let me talk. So the FBI had a COINTEL program, which was an illegal campaign designed specifically to neutralize Black people that stood up, Black leaders, anti-war activists. This was a criminal program that was illegal through infiltration. The FBI was in the room when Malcolm X was killed, didn't do anything, allowed it to happen. There were informants undercover. This is Black resistance movement, watching it happen. The FBI was around as they arrested. Theorists. No, this is proven fact. Like this movie.
This is like when right-wing people say, "Oh, they just walked into the Capitol and they didn't do anything wrong. They thought they allowed to be there."
So tell me about
this is your version of the.
Fred Hampton was drugged and shot 100 times by cops and in coordination with the FBI.
It's not police misconduct.
He's part of the Black Panther Party. He's part of the Black Panther Party and was shot and killed by our government, the FBI, and cops in coordination. And that's been proven by a criminal and civil lawsuit against them because of the way that Fred Hampton.
So his logic is, okay, and once again, I disagree to every degree of everything that's coming out of his lips, okay? They were a part of a gang, okay? Sure, got you. So Fred Hampton deserved to get shot over 100 times outside of his house. Once again, it's not a conspiracy. You can even Google the information and the images. Over 100 times. One person. It wasn't a gang of them in the house. They weren't shooting back. They were shooting them while he was sleeping. But he was in a gang, right? He was robbing people. So like now the government police is okay to start shooting up people's houses, right? Shoot first, ask questions later type thing, right? Okay, once again, when you're oblivious to history, when you just don't care about learning some things that's outside of your color wheelhouse, you sound like this. Don't be this guy. Don't be this idiot. Even this picture right here. Hey, this is the face of an idiot right here. But okay, enough. I called him an idiot once. Let's continue.
Dismantle a domestic
So if you are telling me that if you don't
organization.
understand the history of this country and why in the 70s people would have a distrust of somebody getting pulled over for a tail light, and you saying that all of a sudden she shot at you when she has wounds inconsistent with what the account from the police are saying, then you are foolish and don't understand our country's history.
So the fact that
I think that you just don't understand our country's history.
In pursuit of this organization that I would disagree with. I am not some apologist for everything the police do.
Obviously
but
you
that
are, because you're
doesn't
telling
get
me that
around
this woman just killed somebody, but everything about that trial was inconsistent and there was a concerted effort to go after people of color that were part of these resistance
I don't think she was in the wrong
movements.
place at the wrong time. I think she was part of a violent, radical organization.
That's not
that
proven, though.
robbed
That's your
people and killed
perspective. That's
people.
your perspective.
Well, I mean, it is.
And many
proven
people
because it was
celebrate her
proven
legacy
in
because
court.
she represents the survival of a system that was intentionally oppressing black people. And so when she escaped and people never thought she did it in the first place, they're saying, okay, Cuba provided some exile for her and some refuge for her, for somebody who was just standing up trying to liberate black people, and that was her entire mission.
She was just trying to stand up and
Yes, she didn't shoot the
black
cop.
people.
If they're saying that there's no proof going consistent with what you're saying,
She was convicted.
I don't think they're supposed to automatically trust the cops in the 70s. You're asking black people for a lot who just got their rights finalized 10 years before that.
Okay.
So if you were a person of color that was constantly oppressed, beaten up for drinking out of the wrong water fountain, did not have the proper rights, and then people start to create a movement to say, stand up for yourselves, that's called the liberation
But they
and
weren't
resistance
standing up for
movement.
Once again, he does not get it. He is no. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm giving him too much credit. It's not that he doesn't get it. He doesn't care. He doesn't care to try to understand the time frame, the time period that black folks in America had to live in. Once again, lynching was still a thing. They would literally hang you and get away with it, or a slap on the wrist. It was okay to discriminate and treat black people any way that you see fit. He doesn't get that. Oh, so like, what was she standing up for? What do you think? What do you think? She wasn't standing up for, like, more barbecue sauce going through McDonald's. Like, no. Even though, hey, we can protest that. But once again, that's not what she was fighting for. She was literally fighting to be treated as a human being, which should be like the fundamental basic understanding. Why is that hard to understand? Well, it's hard to understand if you just don't care, or you're too privileged. You're too self-centered and privileged to not have to think about other people's struggle. Like, you're so locked into just your own privilege. You're like, how in the world can someone be so violent? I just don't get it. If they were lynching my people and bombing my streets and shooting up my houses, like, why can't we just, like, apologize to them? Like, this is the guy who was getting bullied in high school and apologizing for bruising the fist of his bully. Like, this is that guy right here. So once again, I can't expect cowards to understand how this works. He's a coward. Like, everything that he's talking about, his very existence, even the way he's sitting in that chair, displays that he does not have a spine. Like, this is pure cowardness right here. I mean, what? Am I wrong? I don't think so.
themselves. They were robbing people.
No, that's not proven. You said 9 out of 10 of those cases that were put up against her have dropped, hung juries, or failed, or she was acquitted. So this is incorrect. If we're going based off the law, your law failed 9 times.
She was part of a group that was engaged in that activity. She was not convicted of being the perpetrator of every single one of those crimes. No, she was convicted of the murder.
Okay, Robby, if you were getting beat and whooped and slavery was in your history and people were constantly attacking you so much they had to put laws through Congress, I think 72 hours and 72 different leaders at the time, I believe, were saying they're against in Congress for black people to have civil rights.
Okay,
that was the time that they lived in. So
I don't want to hear left-wing people say we don't support violence. Then clearly left-wing people do endorse political violence.
You must support violence if you think that it's okay for black people to be treated that way. She was standing up in her own way to say, I don't go for this. And so that's why people celebrate her legacy.
Violence.
My point is that's what
I support leaders within the black.
But that's political violence that they were committing to black and brown people. They were committing their own political violence. And it was political because they created legislation. They created laws to allow that to happen. So once again, like I said, political violence is like seeping through America, like throughout its history. Any country, to be honest, like you can't run away from it. The only difference is what side of that political violence are you on? Are you representing? Once again, political violence was happening over there in Israel and Gaza. What side of that conversation are you on? You can't run from political violence. You can try your best to avoid it. Try to be a peacemaker. Once again, we had plenty. We had plenty of those. And they killed them. That's kind of crazy. This guy's crying, oh, well, you know, oh, what? They're just committing so many violence. Really? I guess he went to a public school himself.
Community like Martin Luther King.
Do you understand what the Black Panthers were? Do you understand what the Black Panthers were? They were giving food to communities in Harlem, serving out children food and helping communities, teaching educational programs, community programs. They put in place.
They were mobsters.
For the same. No, that's not true. They were put in place to uplift the community in a different way, in a different route than MLK. And if you don't understand the history of this country, then obviously you, Cash Patel, and everyone else who wants to be simple-minded about this and act like her legacy can be brought down to a simple cop killer is just, you know, you're trying to play dumb. Or you should read a history book and understand what time it was in the 70s and why everything that the cops say does not hold merit.
Now, hey, he's not playing dumb. You're being too nice to this guy. He's not playing dumb. I don't even think he has the IQ to even play dumb. He is dumb. He's dumb. Like, by definition, dumb. And that's the nice way to say it. That's simple. She's being way too generous, okay? I would have to flip tables over. With that aggressive stupidity has to be not attacked, but it needs to be talked at, okay? That aggressive stupidity is not going to work with me.
You're making excuses for
I'm not making an excuse. No, that's not violence.
Murder and robbery.
You're making excuses for inconsistent damages on this woman's body that show her arms were up by doctors and telling me I should just believe the cops. When in fact, before there were cameras, we know that cops have done many things. And in fact, when we saw Fred Hampton killed, we understand that cops have done many things.
They robbed a bank to get the money to break her out of prison. Like, the criminal associations of these people is just so obvious, and I don't understand the excuse making for it.
If somebody did not...
So he's mad because they broke her out of prison, knowing that she was going to be at the whim of these racist, hateful people. He's not mad at the system that deliberately put her in there for little to no reason, but he's mad because they broke her out. Once again, if you're going to be consistent, be consistent. But don't sit here and, once again, he would punish his kids for fighting the bully. He would tell little Jimmy, hey, don't be fighting the bully. The bully has feelings. The bully is just, he's going through some things. So how dare you stand up for yourself and fight the bully? That's this idiot right here. I hope he's not married. I honestly hope he does not have kids. We don't need any more cowards infesting this world. It's literally because of cowards is why the world is at the state that it's in now. All these cowards sitting here making excuses saying, oh, how can you be against political violence, but making excuses for the political violence that this government is inflicting on people? Wow, that's crazy, right? Man, I hope he's not married. Sweet God, I feel bad for his wife, spouse, girlfriend, because they're just gonna procreate a bunch of little cowards, okay? I'm sorry. Ugly ones too.
Not commit a crime and believe they did not commit a crime, and the cops were actively after Black Panther.
If this was any other group and you didn't agree with them ideologically, you would, again, if it was the January 6th,
there's no other group.
You would easily say lock them up for their criminal behavior.
Unfortunately, and for your perspective, there's no other group in our country that was demoralized and dehumanized for decades and decades and decades and fought for their rights and finally came up with one plan to specifically try to create an equal society, which is where we're in right now. So you're equating something that can never equate, because Black people were slaves in this country and then moved on to try to fight for civil rights. And then after that, there's still people to this day that are still racist that we can agree upon, that are still trying to oppress and bring us back. And so the Black liberation movement was significant. And so that people said they're not going to stand for it and they're going to put their foot down and figure out ways to move forward. And there was an active concerted effort by the FBI and other government entities and cops to bring those people back into their place that they thought they needed to be in. And so that's where we are. And Assata Shakur was part of that resistance movement.
And you think that...
Hey, once again, if he does not get that, right there, she laid that plain and simple. Plain and simple. And if you're still too stuck on stupid to understand that, it's you. It's not a us thing. It is a you thing. Once again, either here is something is not clicking, or you're just like too oblivious or too much of a coward. One of the three or all three in one. I don't know. Choose whatever you want. But once again, if you don't get that, then like don't be in this conversation then. That simple. But okay, got you.
That was tactically useful or persuasive in helping get people more civil rights?
Do I think it's tactically useful or persuasive for the cops to pull over for a tail light because they wanted to get this lady for something? I don't think neither is tactically useful. Do I think it's tactically useful that we sit in this country and pretend like slavery doesn't affect us all and don't want to acknowledge it? Have a president right now who doesn't want to actually acknowledge that slavery was as bad as it was. He wants to celebrate the 250th anniversary of this country.
You don't want to acknowledge
and he wants
that like murdering a cop is as bad as it was.
But that I don't acknowledge that is the whole story. Doctors don't acknowledge. Forensic evidence doesn't acknowledge it. That's what I'm telling you. So there's people that actually just want to acknowledge the facts and understand the time period of the 70s and why that would be problematic without full proof.
All right.
Up next, Trump's...
Oh, my God. I'm sorry, man. Even the way he's sitting in that chair. Jesus Christ. Get this man's off my screen. This guy... Man... Yeah, I don't know if I could do it. I honestly could not sit across from someone being that aggressively stupid. I would go crazy. I would lose my temper. Like, I'm trying to explain to you something that is not debatable. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this history here. Just read it. It happened. And if you're still like, but oh my God, like, reportedly she killed a police officer. Okay, so you're going to believe police officers during that time that literally would just say and do whatever they wanted. There was no accountability for anything they did in black communities. You're gonna believe them? Okay. That's your only argument. You're not gonna talk about or wrestle with or argue like literally American citizens fighting for their rights, fighting for their freedom. And you're just gonna like gloss over that and be like, but oh my God, like she broke out of jail. Like that's your argument. Okay, got you. Okay, unfortunately, those are people we have to deal with here in America. Good luck, guys.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm Kesha. I get to the paper, boy. Extra. Fuck with me, you know